It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Storm Ciarán bears down. Warnings issued for violent winds with some schools closed and trains cancelled.
I don't know how it's going to hit us, how bad it will be, because I never experienced anything like this, being windy and have the high tide as well.
Also tonight, the first group of people leave a worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The Rafah crossing opens, allowing some foreign nationals and injured Palestinians through to Egypt.
We have no electricity. The food we have to go find each day. The water stopped.
Funerals are held after 15 Israeli soldiers died in the war yesterday. We hear from the people fighting on the front line. A toxic culture in number 10, more accusations about breaching rules and increasing questions about the performance of the then Health Secretary Matt Hancock during the pandemic.
Elon, I'm from Sky News. Do you think AI is a threat to humanity still?
It's a risk.
You can follow me.
Big names in tech gather for an AI summit as 28 countries vow to collaborate to control artificial intelligence. Plus, the creators of Friends speak about their last phone call with Matthew Perry. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That's in our press preview from 10:30. Hello there, good evening. There are weather warnings for parts of the UK tonight as Storm Ciarán begins to make its way across the country. 50 schools have been closed in Hampshire and some trains cancelled as councils hand out sandbags. In a moment, we'll go live to some of the places already being battered by strong winds and rain and look at why the storm has travelled all the way from the US with such ferocity. First, though, let's take a look at where those weather warnings are. Well, ferry services have been cancelled and a red weather warning has been issued for the Channel Islands. Forecasters have said gusts of 90 miles an hour could hit the islands tonight and wind speeds of up to 110 miles an hour in the middle of the English Channel. Going into tomorrow, amber weather warnings are in place for Cornwall and Devon, all along the coast from Hampshire to Kent, as well as parts of East Anglia. Yellow weather warnings for rain and wind are also in place between Wednesday and Friday across the UK. Well, Sky's Ashna Hurinag is in Jersey with that red weather warning and has this report.
The storm has arrived in Jersey and they know it's not to be messed with. These shores are set to see gale-force winds of up to 90 miles per hour with the danger to life warning in place. Those facing it head-on are wary of what to expect. Yanis has run this guest house and restaurant on the seafront for over 30 years. They're open tonight, but won't be tomorrow.
It's an anxious wait tonight, then?
Yes, it is, yeah. It's a high tide this time, so the water could be hitting us, you know. I don't know how it's going to hit us, how bad it will be, because I never experienced anything like this, being windy and have the high tide as well.
Residents too are piling up the sandbags, knowing they may not stand a chance. A view they relish in the summer, they may now come to regret.
It's concerning. I'm hoping it's not going to be too bad, but, yeah, fingers crossed. That's all we can hope for, really.
For some, the worry has seeped into panic. Fresh produce on supermarket shelves are increasingly hard to find. Ferries and flights are grounded and schools and colleges will be shut. All non-essential hospital procedures have been cancelled too.
They've said that this storm was on the way, and now that it's finally here, you can really feel the full force of it. The worry is these sandbags are going to be completely useless when this road is expected to be swamped.
Jersey is the first place Storm Ciarán has hit. In the UK, they've been preparing for their turn throughout the day. The southwest of England is preparing to bear the brunt.
We know this is going to bring us exceptional weather. We've already got 6 flood warnings out around Devon and Cornwall coast, and we know that we are looking at probably 2 weeks of rain in 24 hours.
In Dawlish, they're used to flooding, but no one knows just how bad this will be.
Tonight this all needs to be shut. We need to shut the door, shut the gates, and then these, they get slotted in, and we've actually got a key, so they'll actually They lock into place, and no water should get in. Well, because we don't want the shop wrecked, do we? It's a family business.
Bracing for a storm that's already battering Jersey. The message to all here is to stay at home. But everyone on this island knows it's going to be a long and blustery night. Ciarán, Sky News in Jersey.
And Ashton joins us now from St Helier on Jersey, and in Milford-on-Sea, our national correspondent Tom Parmenter. Ashton, school closures, then ferry cancellations, real concern there by the sound of it about just how hard this storm will continue to hit.
And all they can do, Anna, is prepare for what's to come. What's to come are the strongest winds that this island has seen in more than 3 decades. We know that the local police here have set up an incident room because they're concerned about incidents that may occur overnight and unexpected events. We know that 10 parish halls already are sheltering some people in the immediate case that they're struggling with. We also know that the government has set up a public helpline for people because there is genuine concern that there could be such a battering for people on this island, not just here on the seafront where I am, but also further inland too. I mentioned there a major incident is yet to be declared. It's due to be declared at midnight tonight. What that will mean is that there is serious risk to life and that there is a serious risk that harm could be caused by falling debris. People are being urged to stay at home. We know that many people will be working from home tomorrow. Schools and colleges, as I mentioned, will be shut. As for whether that continues into the weekend and further into Friday is yet to be determined. But look, with ferries having stopped and flights not going in and out of Jersey Airport, this island effectively is cut off for the next 24 hours.
Well, Tom, we're looking at the deepest November low for England ever. How's it looking already there?
Yes, some forecasters call it a weather bomb, and it does feel tonight here in Hampshire that it is now starting to go off. As soon as we pulled up in this small seaside town, there were sparks flying from a telegraph pole opposite our car, and you can just see wave after wave of rain lashing into this part of the south coast of England. In fact, it's a 300-mile spread of these warnings from the tip of Cornwall in the southwest all the way round to Kent and Essex in the southeast. They have declared here in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight a major incident, and that has allowed a lot of preparatory work to get underway, with people who are rough sleeping given extra help. Transport is going to be severely disrupted. We will see a lot of flooding on top of what has been one of the wettest Octobers on record. This is the wildest start to November, really, for so many people now. And all of the warnings that we are hearing from the Met Office point to a very wild 24 hours ahead. And here in Hampshire, they're asking people, don't go too close to any water. Don't go for a walk in the woods, because trees will be uprooted given the strength of the winds that we are now seeing here tonight.
Tom in Hampshire, Ashna on Jersey, thanks to both of you. Tom, talking about the rain there, there's already been flooding in Northern Ireland this week, and now this storm threatens to bring extreme weather to England and to the Channel Islands, as we saw. So why is Storm Ciarán bringing so much potential destruction to the UK? Our science correspondent Thomas Moore has the details.
Storms are normal for this time of year, but Ciarán looks like a wild one. You can trace its origins back to huge temperature extremes over North America, with Canada below freezing and the southern United States basking in highs over 30 degrees. That accelerated the high-altitude winds of the jet stream to around 200 miles an hour, a turbulent mass of energy that fueled the developing storm. On Wednesday afternoon, Ciarán broke away and barrelled towards the UK, the air pressure in its centre dropping rapidly, a process called explosive cyclogenesis, a weather bomb. The strongest winds be along the southern edge. In northwest France, there could even be a rare sting jet, where cold air from the upper atmosphere plunges to the ground, whipping winds up to more than 100 miles an hour. The UK is on the edge of the worst winds. From dawn on Thursday, Pembrokeshire, Devon and Cornwall can expect winds of 75 to 85 miles an hour on the coast, slightly lower inland. Later in the morning and into the afternoon, counties further up the Channel coast can expect winds of 70 to 80 miles an hour. Even inland, winds of 60 miles an hour are possible. That's likely to damage buildings, uproot trees and cause widespread disruption to transport. But it's not just the wind, it's the rain. In southern England and Wales, there could be 20 to 30 millimetres, around an inch, but as much as 60 millimetres or 2.5 inches in some spots. In North Wales and the southern Pennines, there could be up to 80 millimetres, Northern Ireland up to 40, and North East England and eastern Scotland up to 80 millimetres in parts. All that rain is falling on ground that can't hold any more water. Much of the UK was wetter than average through October. Parts had record rainfall for the month, so there's a risk of more significant flooding. Ciarán finally moves away as we go into the weekend, but the next storm looks like it could be close behind.
Thomas Moore reporting there. Now, for more than 3 weeks since Hamas waged its attack on Israel, killing 1,400 people, the residents of Gaza have been bombarded by Israeli airstrikes and now a ground incursion. But today, finally, some people have been able to leave via the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. Officials at the crossing say that 76 injured civilians were taken out by ambulance and more than 300 foreign nationals travelled out by bus. And according to the Foreign Office, the first British citizens also left. Tonight, the US President Joe Biden said that he expects more US citizens will cross the border in the coming days. Well, in Gaza, the Israeli military says troops have continued to advance into the Strip. The areas shown in pink here outline Israeli clearing operations advancing from 4 directions, according to reports from the Institute for the Study of War. Well, Sky News has also verified footage of Israeli troops at 7 locations across the Gaza Strip as tanks and infantry press on towards Gaza City. Meanwhile, Israel continues to bombard Gaza from the air, hitting the densely populated Jabalia camp again today. Air raid sirens also sounded in Israel as Hamas fired rockets towards civilian areas. Well, this evening, the Israeli military has again urged people to move south for safety, although with fighting continuing, this is becoming more and more difficult for residents in the north. But the Rafah crossing opened both ways for the first time since October the 7th, following weeks of diplomatic efforts. Hundreds of foreign passport holders and dozens of injured Gazans crossed into Egypt, while 55 aid trucks drove the other way. Our special correspondent Alex Crawford has this report.
Rows of ambulances in Gaza carried the most critically wounded towards the first chance of escape from the hell that is happening inside the Strip. In the emergency convoy, there were 81, mainly elderly people, but some understood to be children. The breakthrough comes after frantic discussions overseen by Qatar and America, and then agreed by Egypt, Israel and Hamas. It's a chance of life for them and has led to tough choices for the medics. One doctor told us he chose 18 of his most ill patients, but he had 30 others waiting.
Because most of them will need advanced surgery, either in the brain or in the spinal cord or in different surgeries, which we don't have enough medical supply for them. So I wish to be able to enter today and to have good services so we can send more injuries and more patients who will be benefited from this chance.
Egyptian state TV showed some of the injured, including this young boy arriving at Arish Hospital. The evacuations came as a Hamas official said the more than 200 hostages being held by them were under the same threat of death and injury that Palestinians are facing, and claimed an unspecified number had already died in Israeli attacks. If you think you've seen these pictures before, think again. It's the same desperation, despair and destruction, and the same refugee camp in Gaza. But Jabalia was hit for the 2nd day in a row by Israeli airstrikes. The Israeli military says it is a stronghold of Hamas fighters. There were no official figures of injuries or the numbers killed, but there is substantial damage and many casualties. The pictures were released by Hamas, but the location has been verified by Sky News. There's no let-up to the terror and fear going on inside Gaza. No wonder then that the only escape route via the Rafah crossing into Egypt was besieged by people desperate to get to safety. Hundreds scrambled to the crossing and scoured the list of names drawn up and approved by 5 different governments, hoping against hope their names would be among the lucky few. About 500 names are on the list, and the UK Foreign Office says the first British nationals have crossed. The list includes a British surgeon from the Royal Liverpool University Hospital, who we spoke to.
I'm waiting at the moment near crossing about 5 kilometers from the UN facility. They have taken one group to the crossing. I'm waiting us to be taken to the crossing. I'm not sure about the timing yet.
But the list doesn't include many others who went to the crossing, including a mother from Manchester and her 5 children who were visiting family in Gaza.
We have no electricity. The food we have to go find each day. The water stopped, so there's no sanitary water. We have to go find the drinking water. It's very difficult. It's very difficult.
The Egyptian authorities say the crossing will be opened for a second day. That's unlikely to be enough to cope with the many desperately trying to leave. Alex Crawford, Sky News, Egypt.
Israeli soldiers attended the funeral of a colleague today after 15 members of the Israeli Defense Forces were killed in the war yesterday. Sky News has spoken to a friend of one of those who was killed, who described the situation as crazy, the toughest time they have ever been through. Sky's Cordelia Lynch reports.
The angel of death walks on both sides of this war, and it's stalking the young. Lavi Lifshitz was 20 years old, killed fighting in Gaza. The toil of conflict and the labour of loss. You were always trying to make the world a better place, his brother says. And there's strangers here, too. Lavi's duty to defend, their desire to honour. For no one is a spectator in this battle.
This situation is crazy. We've never witnessed something like this. We're just kids. And Lavi died when he's 20 years old. These days are the toughest I've been through.
This young man was injured fighting Hamas in the Nahaloz kibbutz. He's determined to get to the front line.
You're facing a battle that could expand.
I think we have every mean and moral justification to win it. And I'm not worried we're going to lose, but it will cost us a lot.
Every day, each side gives their glimpse of what looks like a dystopia. A rush to show the world who might be winning. A narrative of heroes and villains. 2 of Mitchell Barak's sons are serving in the Israeli army. He once worked with Benjamin Netanyahu, but unlike some, he's lost faith.
Politically, he is in a problem because the veil of incompetence has been revealed. And many Israelis woke on October 7th to find out that Mr. Security, the world expert on terrorism, was nothing more than a Ponzi scheme, and there was nothing there.
How do you feel when you see those images of a refugee camp and so many civilians killed?
The loss of innocent lives is terrible. I remember seeing that same refugee camp, those same streets on October 7th, when they were dancing and giving out candies, celebrating the massacre of Hamas in Israel.
There is a growing sense of righteous anger everywhere, and it may well take many more to the grave.
Well, Cordelia joins us live from Jerusalem now. Much of the focus today, Cordelia, was that border crossing opening both ways for the first time. Is this just the beginning for those seeking to leave Gaza?
It certainly is. We understand up to 500 foreign and dual nationals could be able to cross each day. And as we understand it, that will take place over several days. The doctor that you saw earlier in Alex's report is going to be among those returning to the border, hoping to cross. It is the critically injured that are being prioritised. We know now that Rishi Sunak, the British Prime Minister, has spoken with the Egyptian president, welcoming the opening of that border, saying that he will continue to work with the Israeli and Egyptian administrations. But look, Anna, this is complicated, fraught, fragile situation. A lot of people wanting to get back, but no certainty yet. We don't know how many British citizens are trying to reach it, trying to make progress. But it is, at least, after many weeks being closed, the start.
Cordelia in Jerusalem, thank you. Well, yesterday we heard of dysfunction at the heart of government during the COVID pandemic, as well as accusations of misogyny and obscene language towards a female civil servant. And today it was that person, Helen MacNamara, who gave evidence to the COVID inquiry. She described a toxic culture of sexism, privilege and overconfidence in government during the pandemic. Our political correspondent, Tamara Cohen, reports.
Boris Johnson at the start of March 2020.
We do have a great plan, a plan to tackle the spread of coronavirus.
Full of confidence, we heard today it was dangerously misplaced. Helen MacNamara was the second most senior official in government. She told how Johnson and his team thought Britain would sail through the impending crisis.
And nothing but the truth. The sort of unbelievably bullish, we're going to be great at everything approach is not a smart mentality to have inside a government meeting.
COVID had by then ripped through northern Italy, pushing its hospitals to breaking point.
If we could just tell people what the right and kind and proper thing to do is, people would do that. And sitting there and saying it was great and sort of laughing at the Italians was just, it just felt completely, well, it felt how it sounds.
Eventually, she went into the Prime Minister's office and delivered this message, read by the inquiry's lawyer.
I have come through here to the Prime Minister's office to tell you all, I think we're absolutely I think this country is heading for a disaster.
As Britain went into lockdown, she claims the Health Secretary wasn't telling the truth.
We heard about a sexist, macho culture in Boris Johnson's government, and this is one of the most senior officials saying it had huge implications. Women, she said, were not listened to or respected, and there was detachment at the top of government from the reality of many people's lives.
This is an email Helen MacNamara sent in April 2020, telling female colleagues the issues she thinks weren't considered. Abortion, domestic abuse, families, fertility treatment, and the fact PPE did not fit women.
Women whose job it was to do something were not able to do their jobs properly because they weren't having the space or being asked the right questions or being treated with the respect that they would do.
She was fined for attending a gathering at the Cabinet Office during the pandemic and said it shouldn't have happened, but described a culture in which hundreds of ministers and officials broke the rules. By winter, COVID was again soaring. Christmas celebrations cancelled at the very last minute. Helen MacNamara left government shortly afterwards. Tamara Cohen, Sky News.
Women in the Red Arrows were regularly subjected to bullying, sexual harassment and predatory behaviour. That's the conclusion of an inquiry which says the abuse was widespread and normalised, with women forced to form groups known as Shark Watch to protect themselves at social events. The Chief of the Air Staff has said he is appalled by the findings and offered his unreserved apologies. Sky's Rachel Venables has more.
The Red Arrows have been delighting crowds with flypasts for decades. But now an inquiry's found predatory and unacceptable behaviour by some men in the team was widespread and normalised. Air Chief Marshal Sir Richard Knighton has apologised unreservedly to the victims and said he was appalled by the findings. But it's not enough for one of them, who says, "I was sexually harassed on the squadron, bombarded with unwanted attention and comments made about my body. The reporting systems buried my complaint, and it became so toxic I had to leave. For me, the Chief of the Air Staff's apology doesn't make up for anything.
Now, much of the details in this report has been redacted, so we don't know exactly what the investigators uncovered. But it is clear that they are concerned that the Red Arrow Squadron was not a safe place for women and that they were highly likely to suffer harassment because of their sex.
But the inquiry's been criticised by some for its lack of independence.
The reality from speaking to people in and associated with the organisation, they're saying nothing has changed. It's just been swept under the carpet more. My biggest disappointment in the reports is that it hasn't given anything that gives the victims real closure.
2 pilots have already been sacked because of their actions, and 9 more people have been disciplined in some way, 5 of them in positions of power.
Some of the report talks about a failure of leadership, for example. Well, it will be absolutely essential that that leadership and that culture is restored. Once that takes place and once people feel reassured that the armed forces, the RAF and particularly the Red Arrows are a safe environment for everybody, but particularly for women, then that confidence will be restored.
The Red Arrows are an internationally recognised and celebrated symbol of Britain. The damage this will do to that brand will go far beyond any individual's repercussions for toxic behaviour. Rachel Venables, Sky News.
Elon Musk, the billionaire tech entrepreneur, has told Sky News there is a risk that artificial intelligence could pose an existential threat to humanity. He was speaking as he arrived at a global AI safety summit being hosted at Bletchley Park by the British government. Our science and technology editor, Tom Clark, reports.
It's certainly a symbolic venue. Bletchley Park, home to the wartime codebreakers who pioneered the field of machine learning, in a way, the birthplace of modern AI. We overheard Elon Musk going one further.
AI is, in a way, like our descendants, our sort of child or something like that,
The AI he and others are here to discuss is our wayward offspring that must be brought into line.
Elon, I'm from Sky News. Do you think AI is a threat to humanity still?
It's a risk.
While he brought some stardust to the summit, a more quietly significant presence was the Chinese government. This is the first time they've sat round a table to talk AI safety with their American and European counterparts.
Having more than 20 countries coming together, I would hope that maybe next year we're having 40, then we're having 100. I'm really grateful that China and Chinese researchers like myself has been invited. I hope that we have already been providing a complimentary view.
The Bletchley Declaration announced today agreed 28 countries here would collaborate on AI safety. They've also agreed to meet again next year, the start of a process to try and control powerful AI. But will the tech companies play ball?
I think we embrace that. I mean, there has to be outside audit and verification of the kinds of capabilities we're developing. I mean, we build some of the largest and most capable language models in the world, and we recognize that doing red teaming ourselves is just the first step.
In closed sessions, delegates heard how AIs off the leash could assist cyber attacks, even help make bioweapons. The main focus of the delegates here at Bletchley Park is on the dangers posed by very large, super intelligent AIs that are expected to be released in the coming few months or years. But what about the AIs that we've already got? There are those at the summit who think the conversation has not been focused enough on the risks already posed by them. Do you think that AIs already run call centres, diagnose illness and feed us ads?
It does some very useful things. Facial recognition, for example, could be useful, can be also really misused for surveillance or policing. So what we're really trying to say is let's steer this technology to work for people in society.
Bletchley's history hasn't been rewritten yet. Nothing substantive has been agreed so far on making AI safer. The delegates have their work cut out, with the ghosts of code breakers watching over their shoulders. Tom Clark, Sky News, Bletchley Park.
Matthew Perry was one part of one of the most popular comedy shows ever made, and now the creators of Friends have spoken about their last encounter with the actor. Marta Kaufman and David Crane told Sky News' partner network NBC that Matthew Perry was in a really good place. Sky's US correspondent Martha Kellner reports.
When Friends debuted in 1994, Matthew Perry, playing wisecracking Chandler Bing, and his 5 co-stars were propelled to a new level of fame. Even the names of the show's co-creators, Marta Kaufman and David Crane, became known to fans around the world. The pair became close friends with Perry, Kaufman speaking to him just days before his death.
It was great. He was happy and chipper. He was in a really good place, which is why this seems so unfair.
Hours before he died, Perry had been playing pickleball.
I was just in utter shock and then deep sadness. It's hard to grasp. You know, 1 minute he's here and happy and then poof, and doing good in the world. Really doing good in the world.
Perry had said he wanted his legacy to focus not on his acting career, but his work to help other recovering addicts.
That doesn't surprise me. That as important as the show was and continues to be, I think that absolutely became his purpose, his reason for being.
I lost a friend in multiple ways. What's amazing is the outpouring from the fans who lost a friend of theirs too. And I hope wherever he is, he feels it.
For many, Chandler and Perry felt like a companion, his death the end of an era, and for those who knew him personally, a searing loss. Martha Kellner, Sky News, Los Angeles.
King Charles confirmed he will attend the COP28 climate conference later this month as his visit to Kenya continued. He awarded medals to a World War II veteran who is thought to be 117 years old and the oldest person in the world, while also visiting orphaned elephants, later urging nations to work together to protect the environment.
As we look ahead to COP28 in another month's time or whatever, we must remember what President Ruto said at the Africa Climate Summit: we go far when we go together.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, joined by the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mirror columnist, Amanda Platel. Welcome to both of you. And among the stories we will be discussing, this on the front page of the Daily Mirror, with the injured among the few allowed to flee Gaza. Their headline for tomorrow's paper, Escape from Hell. We'll show you that in just a moment, obviously. Back with more in just a moment. Well, hello there, watching the press preview. A first look at what is on the front pages. Time to see what's making the headlines then with the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, and the Daily Mail columnist, Amanda Patel. Welcome and great to see both of you. Front pages then, let's start, shall we, with The Guardian reporting on the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt being opened for the first time in more than 3 weeks of war. With a photo, as you can see, pictured on the right-hand side of the paper with a boy taken into an ambulance for treatment. Their main story, though, is about pandemic hitting brain health of the over 50s, a study finds. Well, the Financial Times also has the Rafah border crossing on its front page up the top there, which pictures families crowding through the gate. It leads, though, on US interest rates. The Eye, the headline, 400 escape from Gaza hell. While the Daily Express reports on the Foreign Secretary saying he will not rest until the government has done what it can to help British citizens in Gaza. While the Telegraph reports on the British citizens who have been unable to leave. Meanwhile, the Metro leads on King Charles urging the world to unite to combat the risks from artificial intelligence. It's also the front of the Daily Mail with warnings from Elon Musk that he believes AI is one of the biggest threats to humanity. Well, quick reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us and listen to our guests. So let's head to Kevin and Amanda. Welcome to both of you. Some extraordinary pictures in the newspapers about the injured who've been able to leave Gaza, taken across the border. Your paper's gone on it, The Guardian as well. So finally, people being able to get out.
It is, and there's this picture of the boy with his left leg in plaster. It's on the front of The Guardian, it's on the front of the Daily Mirror, and you've got a feel for him. He looks absolute agony, but also got to remember it's only 76 injured. Now, if 8,000 or 9,000 people have been killed in Gaza, the number of injured must be far more than that, and of course the more severely injured probably can't be moved. So fortunate for this boy, he's now into Egypt. If he's only one of 76, and 335 nationals have been, dual nationals or foreign nationals have been allowed to leave. That's 400 in all. There's 2.3 million people in Gaza.
It's an absolute drop in the
ocean.
It is.
It's almost PR now. It won't be PR for those who get out, but it's PR in a sense. Oh, look, there's a chink of light. Things can get better, but it's not for the vast majority of the population.
Basically, 20 or 30 ambulances carrying people in acute medical conditions outside into a holding system. Maybe they get into Egypt, and I just think that if this is supposed to be some sort of way of saying that this is a humanitarian act, it is a drop in the ocean of suffering.
It is. It's rather like the aid going in. There used to be more than 400 trucks a day going into Gaza.
Now, 20 or 30?
We're talking about tens. So I can see there's a PR value on behalf of the Israeli forces and the Egyptians, but it's not really helping the people of Gaza in any meaningful way if you put it into proper perspective.
Well, the Eye also going with this as well, suggesting about 400 escaped from Gaza hell. The figures we certainly had earlier were that it was 76 wounded people plus their companions who'd got out. A departure of 6 buses carrying 335 passengers carrying foreign passports, some of them Jordanian, we know. 51 trucks arriving today carrying aid, and it'll happen again tomorrow. So that's the suggestion. And Joe Biden's certainly hoping that 400 Americans have asked to get out. So with dependents, they're looking at about 1,000 people trying to get out. So, they're definitely suggesting that will happen over the coming days.
Yeah, suggesting, and let's hope it does happen. But 100 trucks is still only a quarter of what was going in per day before. They haven't gone in that number for more than 3 weeks now, and it's a desperate humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
And you just wonder how this is supposed to shift the dial. How this is supposed to, we've got real crisis in the Labour Party, with Keir Starmer quite courageously, I believe, trying to hold the line. The talk of a ceasefire, balancing that with humanitarian aid, and then you see this. Is this going to be enough to appease anyone? And in the meantime, we've been told that at least 7 of the hostages have been killed in these strikes. and we're being told that half a dozen hostages are going to be let out. It's just, I just, you know, I hate to describe it as, you know, some sort of PR event, but, you know, there's a lot of human management of, you know, who are we showing are the good guys, who's doing the right things. We've opened the gates, you know, we've let people through. We've let, like, 25 people through.
In any war, there's an information war. Hamas play it too, with a limited releases, with very limited releases.
But you just look at these newspapers today and you think, you know, is this really kind, you know?
Well, we're into months of this, that's the point. The ground incursion, you know, the destruction of the tunnels, the finding of all the Hamas terrorists, as Israel calls them, you know, that will be months.
And the killing of thousands of Palestinian civilians. You know, there's, what, 8,000 or 9,000 killed already, so it's not just the targeting of Hamas and the tunnels, is also killing civilians, which is a war crime.
Because even one of the Hamas officials today said, you know, this is a price we pay for success. This is what a price we pay. You know, we are all in it together. You are all martyrs in this war. And you think, Lord alive, you see the pictures, those little bags of just little bodies of kids.
There's areas, refugee camps are becoming graveyards.
Who is winning the PR war at the moment?
Well, there is another video out today with Hamas saying that what happened on October the 7th was just the start. There'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 more of those, you know, and then you understand why Israel feels it has to take action. The rockets are going up. So it's, you know, it's hell.
I always think, what happened if that attack had been on Britain? 1,400 people killed in what, Israel? 10 million people. I mean, you bring it up, it's probably about 10,000. I mean, it is. I can see why Israel is in a absolutely, you know, it's in a trauma on this.
But also, they're not.
It's how you conduct your right to self-defence and go after your enemy.
Underlying all of that is the fact that these weren't just civilians killed. You know, we had that terrible story of the girl with the famous tattoos who was literally stripped and some say raped and then dragged through the streets and spat on. You know, they didn't go in there just, it wasn't a war. They didn't just go into seized land. They went into
humiliate. It was barbarous, absolutely barbarous. There's no question about that. But two wrongs don't make a right. Yeah, when civilians are killing, now you can argue Hamas deliberately went out to kill Israelis, that's true. But if you're dropping that number of bombs on a densely populated area like that, you will inevitably kill.
Which
there's thousands of women and thousands of children
because that gave them the PR.
Yeah, but you're not. It's all about. It's all about
I think
not.
We've got to move on.
Yeah, it's all about not killing civilians.
I'll just show the Daily Express as well, if we can.
No.
We can look for it. I can find it here.
Yeah, it's just the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, a little bit like Joe Biden did, suggesting that they will stop at nothing to get the British nationals out, calling it a hugely important first step, but vowed he will not rest until every UK national is free and back home. So, you know, the slow process. I don't think they've ever put a number, have they, on how many British nationals are there?
No, we're not unsure. Let's have the Scottish First Minister's family in-law.
Yeah, and what about the UK national captors, the people who are held hostage there? No mention of them. They've just kind of disappeared.
No. I think you'll find there's a lot of attention on hostages and calls repeatedly for them to be released because their seizure, again, was a war crime. It's against international law to seize people, use them as hostages like that, human shields. It's completely and utterly wrong.
I'm going to move on to COVID, if you don't mind. You know, it's been dominating as well for the last couple of days, starting with the Daily Star, in fact. Can we kill COVID by blowing a hairdryer up our hooters? The official inquiry here is that Boris Johnson was madder than Mad Jack McMad. It rings of Donald Trump talking about ingesting disinfectant, if you remember.
I do, yeah. I think it's like Trump called Johnson Britain Trump. He didn't call him Britain's Trump, it was Britain Trump. But there we are, he's having his disinfecting moment. This is from Dominic Cummings. And when you think it can't get any crazier and balmier, it does. But it also gets really, really nasty. You see all the chaos and the incompetence, and you see then all the misogynistic messages and the abuse. Can I just stop you there,
Kevin? I just think I love the Star. I would love to be a headline writer on the Star because normally they just have so much fun. I think this is so off target for what has really gone on. And for a woman who's worked in politics for most of her life and who went through the 2001 election with William Hague, where it was not uncommon for someone to call me the C word. It was not uncommon for the Times to put a picture of my red lips, not even my face, across the whole banner saying, "Is this the most dangerous woman in Britain?" It was not uncommon.
The Times.
The Times.
The Times of London.
The Observer.
The establishment paper.
The Observer ran a full-page picture of me when it was a broadsheet of me looking like Rosa Klebb from a Bond
The
movie.
Liberal Observer.
Saying...
The conscience of the nation.
Describing me as the stilettoed assassin. And Anna, the reason I mention these things is because I think this is really important because, you know, when you look at that text that Dominic Cummings sent to, you know, the Deputy Cabinet Secretary, the words in it, first of all, bullshit, totally dismiss it. I can say that. I will personally handcuff her, OK? That is...
I'm going to warn offensive language,
No,
I promise, like we had to
no, I promise
the last couple of days.
They put me in detention. I promise you that... They said I will personally handcuff her and escort her off the premises. That is a completely abusive, sort of sadomasochistic, you should know that, Kevin, thing to say. And when he says that woman must be out of my hair, Dominic Cummings didn't have any hair, and we cannot keep dealing with this horrific... Let me finish. This horrific meltdown, dodging stilettos from that C woman. Now, it was nearly a quarter of a century ago when I worked in politics, and we took the brickbats. You know, we knew that we were kind of forging through to a new era. And then you hear things like this. I think that anyone in any environment, especially in politics, whoever uses the C word...
OK, we're running out of time.
But that was yesterday's evidence in today's papers. The reason the Star have done this is it was today's evidence and it's in tomorrow's paper.
But we should,
that's why.
No, we should call them out. It should never, ever... Anyone who uses...
I'm not
in a
disputing
WhatsApp,
that.
they should be immediately dismissed from office.
We'll have more time to talk about that a bit later on, thank goodness, because there's lots more to say, clearly. Also going to talk about big names in tech gathering for that AI summit. What's come out of it? We'll take a look in just a moment.
Very significant issue. The World Health Organization published a report in 2015 that showed that 1.1 billion people between the ages of 12 and 35 were at risk of avoidable hearing loss. So it's a very major problem, 10 million of them at risk in the UK. So we were designed, if you like, 5 million years ago to do what we're doing, communicate with each other. And also to keep ourselves safe, so knowing that the saber-toothed tiger was up there rather than down there. Unfortunately, our hearing hasn't evolved for the levels of sound that we now experience routinely in our lives. And there are a number of big issues, so going to live events, whether they're sporting or music, noisy sports, so motorcycling, things like that, but also headphone use is a very serious issue as well. Well, we need to be conscious of the sound exposure that we're getting. So as part of this campaign, which we're launching today, we're lobbying the government to ask them to make sure that headphones provide safeguarding information to the user. So provide them with information that they can then use to protect their own hearing. There are two risks. One is the risk of hearing loss. So I'm actually a sufferer from hearing loss. So my hearing is around 20 years older than I am, typically. And that's from motorcycling. I used to shoot clay pigeons and obviously, well, not obviously, but I used to go to a lot of live events. And my hearing is damaged. So I have tinnitus. That's very unpleasant. And that is a constant sound in your ears, very, very distracting. The other problems are then functioning in social situations. So if you're in a pub or a cafe or somewhere like that, you can't hear the correspondent that you're talking to. But in addition, there's a risk now that's been identified of hearing loss and cognitive decline being correlated. So if you have hearing loss, you're much more likely to suffer from cognitive decline issues, so Alzheimer's and things of that nature.
And how do you check your hearing?
Go and have a hearing test. The problem is, though, that the hearing tests generally won't highlight that you've got a hearing problem until you've damaged a significant amount of your hearing already. The better thing to do is to look at things like the applications that are running on your phone. So, for example, Apple have on their phones, in the hearing health kit, they have a data bank which shows you what your exposure levels are. Please have a look at it. I think you might be unpleasantly surprised about your exposure levels.
welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again, Kevin Maguire and Amanda Patel. Welcome back to both of you. To AI we go in a number of newspapers, in a number of guises, has to be said. Daily Mail, first of all, Amanda, Musk's chilling alert over AI. And certainly it's a real boost, is it not, for Rishi Sunak's summit that Elon Musk got to go there?
Yeah, it is. It's a story that half the population don't have an idea about how threatening it is. I've got to say that. And it's kind of... I'm not including any of us in this. I'm an expert on AI.
Yeah.
I mean, I just know it can't ultimately work, because how could you fake a robot that was Kevin Maguire?
I don't know.
The king is
I'm
out there,
sure you could try.
The king who says, I will not interfere in politics. Once I become king, I will stand down. I mean, I think this is, he's been in Kenya, now he's the king of AI. And next he's off. Where is he next to?
Yeah, but Musk has saved it, because otherwise most prime ministers' presidents were not going to go.
Yeah,
they're just turning it down.
A guy who's done more who's among a group of them, has done more to make the whole social media and this new world that we've entered into the most vicious and horrible place.
He made Twitter worse.
Comes out and sort of starts saying, but I want to talk about Charles's suits.
Right, OK, go on then.
Where are they?
I think it's here in the...
Is it really tiny?
Yeah, rely on me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
So it's inside the metro.
OK, inside... Thank you, Anna. Inside the metro, there's a picture of Prince Charles tripping up as he gets on some grass. What I don't understand is he's one of the wealthiest men in the whole world, and his suits are shameful. He looks as though he's been out in the rain.
But he likes double-breasted suits, doesn't he? I don't know if that is one, to be fair.
No, it's a single... I don't know. That you should have warned me of that technical question.
But for a bloke who inherited 400 million quid from his mum without paying tax, I mean, you would think he could dress a bit.
Right, down the bottom, it's absolutely tiny.
Looking fantastic. He's got people around him who dress sartorially beautifully. They've made all the effort, and he turns up looking like a bag man. It's not good enough, Charles.
But he uses old everything, doesn't he? He doesn't believe in, profligacy and overspending. He likes his old, sofas.
A man with 10 castles doesn't believe him. I mean,
I'm afraid when you're the King of England and you turn up...
I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. I think,
If you're the King of England and you turn up looking like a bag of spuds when everyone's got their shoes shining, they're looking fantastic.
If you were there and you criticised a woman about that, you'd get beasted for that, wouldn't you?
It's not a woman.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. If I went on about Camilla dressing
I think she looks lovely.
But if I was to say she was frumpy or something, which I'm not, you're right, I'd be hammered. How dare you do that? What's sexism?
OK, so when he's going out there, and this is a very important event. I've got 5 seconds. Very important.
Digging, stop digging, stop digging, stop
You never
digging.
Shut up. That's your problem.
Let's get to the weather.
You look like an old bag man.
And if I said that, Sean, can you imagine?
The weather's now.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, Storm Ciarán crosses the country tonight, bringing some heavy downpours, strong winds as well, mostly for southern counties. The strongest winds actually arrive in the wake of the storm, with the risk of gusts in excess of 80 miles an hour. There's an amber warning for wind and rain for those southern areas. Also, yellow rain warnings for areas further north, which are sensitive to further rainfall. Those include eastern Scotland and northeastern England, which has seen significant rainfall recently.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
The 5 of us have made it out of the car.